Hi, everybody. Linda Bloom here. Charlie's here too.
Hey,
And
we're back.
we've got a juicy topic to discuss with you, for you today. Can I give you some feedback? Have you been one to say that phrase to somebody where you wanted to give them some input about some strong feelings that you might have been having as a result of an interaction or not having an interaction? And maybe you've been on the receiving end where somebody said, can I give you some feedback? And you were ambivalent about whether you really wanted to say yes to that question because it can get pretty hairy and pretty gnarly sometimes because people can be very mixed up about what feedback really is. And Charlie and I run into this a lot with people that we speak with in our counseling practice, that they're afraid of feedback because they think that it's going to hurt, that it's going to not help, that it's going to make things worse. And what they may be calling feedback and thinking that it is isn't really feedback. It's just justifications and rationalizations to be able to get things spit out that may be bothering us, and it can come in a very insensitive and crude way. And it really is opinions, judgments, and criticism. What really good, healthy, useful, wholesome feedback is, we're not given our opinions and criticisms and judgment. We're just talking about ourselves and our own experience. And that seems to be really core for good communication. And so if you're trying to tell somebody something and you're getting a defensive response from them, you want to check out your delivery. Don't make it about them. See if you can refine what you are speaking to them, because feedback is so essential for relationships to thrive. We don't realize it many of the times when we're letting our partner down. We don't realize it when we may be saying or doing things that are hurtful or not giving them the kind of information that they need or the behaviors that they need to feel safe, to feel that the trust is strong, to feel really cared about and loved. So to our own peril, do we want to have feedback be off the table? We need it. That is an essential interchange. And when it goes well, people learn a lot about each other, and they learn a lot about how to uplevel their relationship and make it even better. So I'm grateful to you, Charlie, that you helped me to learn a lot about giving feedback very skillfully and how to stay open to receive your feedback and to not close off, go away, change the subject, or get defensive about it, because I feel like it's been really good for our relationship, and I'm grateful that we have become as skilled as we have so that we can help other people, our students, our counseling clients, and now with our Facebook Live audience, to make the fine distinctions about how to do it well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's my feedback. Yeah, I think that there's so many of us, and I have certainly in my time been one of them who mistook what was called feedback, or what I referred to as feedback, as something very different than what it really was. And so, like you said, what feedback is not is opinions, directives, judgments, advice, anything that has to do with something that you think the other person should be doing or thinking or feeling or saying.
We put diagnosis in that category.
Yeah, well, if you're...
You don't have to be a therapist to diagnose them. That sometimes will really hurt them.
It helps, though, especially if you have the DSM nearby, the diagnostic Diagnosis and Statistical Manual that has the hundreds or maybe by now thousands of different mental health categories that somebody can be afflicted with. And then, you have proof to validate that, well, my feedback to you is that, you're too narcissistic, or you have an eating disorder, or no, that's not feedback. So feedback, very simply, very succinctly, is an outer expression of my inner experience.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's information that I'm giving to you about what it is that I'm experiencing, generally in response to something that you have said or done to me or with me. So I know that when I hear the question, which sounds like a pretty harmless question, but when I hear the question, can I give you some feedback?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really encourage me to feel warm and fuzzy and relaxed and eager to hear what's coming, because often what has come following that question is some judgments, some advice, some information that doesn't always make me feel good. And I'm not saying that it is, feeling good is something that should always be happening, and that, you should not be open to receiving anything that doesn't feel good. But there's a difference between telling somebody what your experience is and telling them making them responsible for what it is that you're feeling. So, for example, if I'm in a conversation with somebody and they are kind of a monologuer and they don't really, they just want to continue. Somebody may have friends like this, or maybe you're in this category, I don't know. But that they have a tendency to talk on and on and on. And by the way, there is a 12-step group that is designed for people like that. And it's called On and On and On. And it's very helpful. And I often refer them to that group, which isn't feedback, but that's advice.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I'm just making all this up. It doesn't really, maybe it does exist, I don't know. But
it should.
yeah, I can recommend a few people I know. So let's say that that's what I'm experiencing with somebody. Feedback would not be you talk too much, or it wouldn't be, you need to let me have something to say too. It's not about them at all. It's
or you're crazy and irrational.
Yeah, whatever.
That wouldn't be feedback.
It's in fact, if you're using the word you in there, sourcing them as the problem, you're not giving them feedback. You're giving them something else, probably opinion, advice, judgment, or one of the others. So feedback would be, in an example like that, I'm experiencing difficulty being able to say what I want to say here, or I notice that I'm starting to lose focus on what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it really has to do with my experience. I'm giving you information that has to do with what effect your behavior, your speaking, your actions has on me.
So I want to give a little story, true story, personal story. This happened many years ago, and I wasn't a very experienced workshop leader at that time. And I was teaching a women's workshop in Washington, D.C. Weekend. So I had a wonderful experience in the workshop. The women mostly really loved the workshop, went really deep, and I went deep too. So I'm very opened up at the end of the workshop, and I'm tired because I give it my all. And one woman lingered around after the workshop, and I thought that was curious, and I went to talk with her some more, and she said, "Can I give you some feedback?" And I wouldn't do it now. Now I'm much more experienced, and I'd say, your feedback is very valuable to me. I would like you to put it in a form of an email and send it to me. This wouldn't be a good time. And I didn't do that because I wasn't as experienced and didn't know about feedback can be really dangerous in the wrong hands. And I said yes. So I'm really opened up, and I'm very vulnerable. And this woman took it upon herself in her arrogance to critique the entire course. And there were a couple things that she liked. Actually, there were a few things that she liked, but there were a lot of things that didn't suit her. And she was arrogant enough to think that her opinion really counted. She wasn't a workshop leader. She wasn't anybody that I was wanting consult from, but in her sense of self, she felt like she had to tell me. What I have learned over the years that there are people who like a lot of exercises in the course, and they don't like it because you didn't do enough. And in that very same course, there are people who think you did too many exercises. In the very same course, there are people who think you spoke too much, and there are other people who said they wish that you hadn't lectured so much, that they wanted more chance to have group activities and experiential exercises. So you can't please everybody. But I was very deeply hurt and wounded by this woman's input. When I came home and I explained what had happened to Charlie, and I talked to some of my colleagues, I realized that some people have very strong opinions about a workshop. They may mean well, but all it is their opinions and their personal preferences. And it is important for us to, listen to the people who we really want feedback from and value their feedback. But other people, we can draw some boundaries with them, and we can, not give them space because they sometimes just want to be judgmental and critical as a way of giving themselves a lift, that they feel better about themselves when they talk down to other people. So that was a big learning experience for me, and I got to be really careful with my boundaries about who I say, yes, I would really like your feedback. And of course, in my closest relationships, I want to make sure that the relationship is honest, open, that people aren't harboring anything, and that we put it on the table, but we negotiate that agreement with, it will be sensitively delivered. It will be responsibly delivered. It will be delivered with an intention of creating a tighter, more secure bond, not to put anybody else down or make them wrong or to grab the higher ground at their expense.
Reminds me of a line in the movie A Few Good Men, when Tom Cruise, who's an officer, a military officer, is talking to Jack Nicholson, who is probably not the best person in the world to confront. So he insists to Jack Nicholson that I want to hear the truth. And Jack Nicholson turns to him and he says, "You can't handle the truth." And that just shuts him up right away, because he knows that it's true. And when we give feedback, even if it's delivered sensitively, even if it's delivered responsibly, sometimes people can't handle it. And one of the reasons that it's important to really check in with them to see if they would like some feedback, and then to define what it is that we mean, so that they feel even a little bit more reassured that we're not going to give them advice or judgment. In fact, we're not even going to talk about them, because feedback is not about you. Feedback is about my response to you. So then when we tell them that, then they're less likely to be defensive. Mm-hmm. Although sometimes they can still be. Look, we're all can be pretty defensive when it comes to hearing things about us that are incongruent with what we want to see our self-image as being. We all want to see ourselves as being, good people who are aware and sensitive to the needs of others, and that we're not selfish, that we're not hurtful, we're not in any way possessing qualities that would make people feel uncomfortable. But sometimes it's helpful to get feedback, to get information that may be inconsistent with our self-image, because we all have aspects of ourselves that sometimes get expressed that we're not even aware of, that are not exactly consistent with our ideal image of ourselves. And so it's important to really have an understanding of what the value is in hearing that. It doesn't always feel good to hear something that contradicts our picture of who we want to see ourselves as being, something that either explicitly or implicitly suggests that maybe we were inconsiderate, that maybe we did or said something that had a negative effect on somebody, that we may have said or done something that caused somebody to feel some distress.
Mm-hmm. Like, I feel hurt, I feel disappointed, I feel let down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It can be hard to hear it, even when it's responsibly delivered.
But when you say it in terms of, this is, you made me feel this way, or
not
you
responsibly
should
delivered.
not have done that, or that was a cruel or unkind thing that you did, then, we're much, much more likely to feel, upset and to get defensive. It's just a natural response. So we don't want to do anything that's going to weigh the scale more in that direction than it's already inclined to be. We want to keep the relationship as respectful, but also as honest as we can. And that is a fine line to walk.
And we hear all the time from people who say, I really want to have an honest relationship. They mean it when they say it. They're committed to that. And they say, and I'm committed to my own personal growth. And I realize that I need to hear from other people how I impress them so that I can grow. And these very same people who are committed to their own personal growth and are committed to having an honest relationship get really defensive when they hear some things from their partner or other people who are really important to them, that they care, that they're held in high regard and esteem. They get really defensive. And they say, no, you didn't understand what I was saying. Oh, I didn't mean it. I was just joking. Or they have ways that they distract, or they change the subject, or they walk away and withdraw from the conversation. There's so many ways to rationalize, justify, avoid. And so this is a practice. This is relationship is spiritual practice, to make an agreement that you do want to give each other feedback, that you do want to be honest with each other, which is beyond, not telling lies and keeping secrets. That's only the big hunks. These are the subtleties. If I do things that offend you, if I do things that annoy you, if I do things that make you sad or frighten you or feel insecure, that doubt my commitment to you, I want you to bring those to my attention. And if when we bring it to the person's attention and they get defensive, we need to check ourselves out, because there may be something about our delivery that isn't quite as skillful as it needs to be, and we can maybe work it from our end. But if we look and we feel that we really and truly are being very responsible and sensitive about the way we're delivering it, then we need to ask the other person, what is this igniting in you? Did I touch a sore place in you? Please give me feedback about the way I'm speaking to you, because I'm committed to our relationship being the best it can be. And we're going to sometimes have to talk about delicate subjects, sensitive subjects, subjects where there's going to be a lot of feeling about it. But I want to get through that to the other side where there's a deeper understanding and respect.
Yeah, we often can be unaware of how we may be contributing to a person who is responding to us with defensiveness. If they're trying to justify or explain something, I'm not saying that it's our fault that they're feeling defensive, but if you have ever said to somebody or felt like saying to them, "You're being defensive," chances are that you may have something to do with them feeling defensive. Not always, not necessarily, but it's always a good idea to check in with yourself and with them to see whether or not you may have in some way spoken or reacted in a way that would cause them to feel threatened in some way. Now, some people, no matter what you do, they're going to feel that way. But if we can check that out, then at least we can make an adjustment if we see that there's something that I might have done that could cause you to feel that way.
Here's another good tip for looking inside. Charlie's emphasizing if you get feedback about you're being defensive, look inside and see if there's some way that you could be more skillful in your delivery. But the receiver also has to take a look and look inside. And if somebody says, "Would this be a good time to talk? I've got something that's bothering me," or "Would you like some feedback?" If you look inside and you find that you're not at your best, make a counter offer, give them a rain check, because sometimes we're too tired or we're too distracted or we're too stressed, and there really isn't bandwidth to have this important conversation that's waiting to happen. And if you feel like you don't have the wherewithal to really be in there in a way that's open, in a way that's going to listen deeply, in a way that's going to be constructive, tell yourself the truth and then tell them the truth that this isn't a good time. But don't let the delay until what would be a good time be too long. At your soonest possible time, to be able to be a gracious receiver and hear what they have to say. That's a gift to the person that's got something bothering them, not to have to hold it too long.
So one of the best ways to minimize the chances of a conversation involving feedback becoming difficult or uncomfortable is to, before you even begin the conversation, to get clear within yourself, the person who feels the need to communicate this, what my intention is.
Mm-hmm.
To really get clear about why I want to have this conversation in the first place, why I want to give this person this information about the effect that they're having or have had on me. And by the way, it's not necessarily always negative. Sometimes it could be something that sounds like, when you spoke about that experience that you had, I felt a lot closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you made that gesture, I really felt welcomed by you. So feedback isn't always negative, but a lot of us do have that association with it because so many people use it as a means to justify giving somebody information or advice or opinions or directives that don't really feel very positive. So to get clear, very often what I'll do when I have any concerns about the other person's openness to hearing something that I want to tell them is I'll just self-reflect and check in and say, well, why do I want to say this in the first place? What is it that I hope to have happen
Mm-hmm.
out of me giving this information to this person? And generally, it's something that's trustworthy. It's something that is positive. Like, well, I want us to be more understanding with each other. I want to enhance the level of trust in our relationship. I want us to see if we're on the same page about this. So if I'm clear about that, and I feel like that's a trustworthy intent, when I begin that interaction, I'll let the person know, and the reason I want to do this is because I want us to feel closer. I want us to have a better relationship, or whatever that might be.
And I totally trust that. I totally trust that your intention is always good, that it's never to put me down or to one up with me. And that's been earned over many constructive conversations that we've had over the years. I want to give an example about what a gracious receiver of some difficult information when they're getting the feedback. And I have said this myself on a number of occasions, so I offer it to you. I'm a concrete thinker, so I like learning with examples and teaching with examples. Whoa, that's hard to hear. That cuts a little close to the bone, but I'm so glad that you told me. And you are right. This is definitely an area where I need to grow, whatever it is, being overcommitted or, not taking good care of myself. Those have been common conversations. I need feedback from people in my life, not just you, Charlie, but the women in my women's group, God bless them, they will give me feedback when they see that I'm veering off the road. And I know and trust that they only mean well to me. They're not ever pulling rank, that they're doing that to support me, and they want me to have the best possible life and the best possible relationship with them. So being a gracious receiver is if you're activated by some feedback that you're getting, breathe, try to take it in, be as open as you can, and see if there's some truth in that. And you know what? Sometimes it won't fit, and you can dismiss it. You took a look and it doesn't fit. Maybe their stuff, maybe old stuff from way back that isn't really true anymore. But if it is cutting close to the bone, to get yourself to the place eventually where you can say, thank you for caring enough about me to bring this to me. I'm grateful for your feedback.
So if you enjoyed or didn't enjoy this talk, if you got something out of it, or if you didn't, give us some feedback. Let us know.
Uh-huh.
Just post something on Facebook or contact us, and we do really welcome all feedback.
Yeah. Our new book, That Which Doesn't Kill Us, is out. And it's very obvious in the book when we were struggling that we were giving unsolicited advice and feedback in very unskillful ways during those years when the relationship was broken down. And when we learned to give each other input and feedback and be emotionally honest from a place of vulnerability, not speaking out of our thoughts and opinions that were critical, the relationship really took a jump up for the better. And I think the book illustrates that quite well. We want to give you a heads up about next week's topic. We're speaking about unfinished business, and unfinished business can really get you in trouble. So we want people to really understand how incredibly important getting complete is, because some people have a mountain of incompletions and it deteriorates their relationship. And one of the reasons they have the mountain of incompletions going back sometimes for years is because they haven't learned yet how to give each other really constructive, useful feedback. So those topics are related.
And with that,
see you next week.
We are complete. Adios.